2019 is about to come to an end, and looking back at the year of 2019, it was actually not that bad for the Arrowverse. The first half wasn't great necessarily, and the second half certainly had its bad parts about it. In fact, the second half had like the biggest controversy ever with Batwoman, but I think the second half had a lot of great episodes in some pretty great seasons. Now, what I wanted to do is look back at this year in the Arrowverse and rank each of the main 5 shows, Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and Batwoman, based off the quality that they gave us this season, or not this season, actually this year, from January 1st to December 31st, 2019. So in this video, I'll be ranking the 5 shows. I'll obviously have a different opinion than you, or at least it's most likely that I will. So leave your list in the comments down below, and if you disagree with anything I say in this video, then obviously that's fine. Like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But with that in mind, let's begin with what is easily the worst show in the Arrowverse this year, and that's obviously Batwoman. This year from Batwoman, we got the first 9 episodes of the show, Season 1, Episode 1 to Season 1, Episode 9, one of which is pretty good, the Crisis episode, even though that episode is actually by far the worst of the Crisis episodes, at least so far, and I really hope that that's what it ends up being, and Part 4 and 5 are significantly better. Anyway, Batwoman is easily the worst part of the Arrowverse this season, or this year, and also this season, as Batwoman is not a very good show. Now, this show has drawn a lot of controversy, more than like any other show in the Arrowverse ever has. First with the casting of Ruby Rose, which drew controversy for Ruby Rose not being lesbian enough, which I thought was ridiculous. I thought that the reason that this should have been controversial, or at least not exactly a great casting, is because Ruby Rose is not a very good actress, and as it turns out, I was right, and she's not exactly very good as Batwoman. But now that the show's out, it's pretty clear that this is not a very good show. It's pretty cringy, it's very preachy, it's all the, like from the trailer we saw, that I'm a woman stuff, also the LGBT stuff is very ham-fisted. It's just not very good. Now, I don't really necessarily have a problem with all those things. I mean, I do, but it wouldn't make the show unwatchable. Supergirl does have all of those things, but I admit Supergirl is kind of like a guilty pleasure for me. I enjoy watching it. The reason Batwoman is by far the worst season, or worst show of this year in the Arrowverse, is not because of all those things. That's a part of it, but it's mainly because of how boring it is. This show is like the most boring show I have ever seen. And I think that not only is this the biggest problem with the show, but it's also being overlooked, and nobody is talking about it. Batwoman is so dull in the lighting, the characters, the acting, the writing. It's all so monotonous that it really, I think, elevates, or it really highlights the actual other problems, the problems that everybody are mentioning. Those are problems that would still, it wouldn't make the show unwatchable, but because of all those things, plus it's so boring in everything, and literally everything, like even the technical things, it's just so boring that I think it completely makes the show unwatchable. I think that the only reason I'm actually watching the show at this point is because Alice is a good enough villain, but it's mainly because of Batman. His stuff, whenever he appears in like in the background or whatever, he probably may be appearing in Season 2 like Superman did on Supergirl. He's interesting, the expansion on his universe is interesting, but I think literally everything else in the show is not only very preachy and cringy, but also it's so boring, and Batwoman is easily the worst show of this year in the Arrowverse. This year from Legends of Tomorrow, we got Season 4, Episode 9 to Season 4, Episode 16. Out of all the shows, the least amount of episodes, and honestly, I'm kind of glad we only got, 8 episodes or 7 episodes from this season. I don't like Season 4 whatsoever, and I admit this is more of an opinionated thing than Batwoman. It seems like Batwoman, almost nobody likes. It has like one of the lowest ratings ever on IMDb, but Legends of Tomorrow Season 4 is actually the second highest rated season of Legends of Tomorrow if you take the average of all the episodes on IMDb. So it seems like people like this season, or at least the people who are currently watching Legends of Tomorrow are still, or do like this. I personally, though, I'm not a fan for a lot of reasons. The show began as a superhero time travel show, and it ended up being, now, it's still time travel-esque, but at least the time travel isn't really all that interesting. The big problem is that it's no longer a superhero show, it's a comedy, which would be fine, but I'm not watching this for laughs. There are other shows that I'm watching to laugh. This is a show that I'm watching because it's a part of the Arrowverse, and because it's superheroes, and I enjoy watching superheroes, which I really enjoyed in Season 1, minus Hawkman and Hawkgirl, I really enjoyed in Season 2, and Season 3 a little bit less so, because they kind of started to stray away from the superheroes, but it really was in Season 4, where they completely jumped the shark by completely abandoning their genre, basically, and becoming a comedy, and I think even in the comedy department, it's not exactly funny. Again, this is something that's definitely subjective, but I didn't find find the season funny whatsoever. I didn't laugh once. If I did, I don't remember whatsoever. I maybe have chuckled a couple times, but it really wasn't that funny. And honestly, the jokes fell mostly flat, and it came off mostly as pretty cringy. And all of those things are made even worse by this season probably containing the worst TV character ever in Mona Wu. And while this season is at least watchable and somewhat enjoyable, which is why it's higher than Batwoman, I really didn't like this season of Legends of Tomorrow, especially the last couple episodes, or really every episode after the Legends of Team Meow Meow episode, which was pretty fun, pretty good. Everything after that was mostly unwatchable, really cringy, and pretty bad. In 2019, we got Supergirl Season 4, Episode 10 to Supergirl Season 5, Episode 9, which is, looking at it now, probably the best year of Supergirl ever, which isn't saying much. 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018 are not exactly great competition for 2019, but honestly, I do think 2019 was the best year for Supergirl ever. There are stuff I don't like. It's still not great. In fact, I hardly would call it good, but I think Season 4 especially, and then parts of Season 5 definitely were enjoyable. Again, like I said earlier, Supergirl is at least enjoyable, which based off that already, it's over Batwoman, but the reason it's over Legends of Tomorrow is because it honestly has a couple things that are actually pretty good. Mainly, this is the reason, it's Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor was the villain of Season 4 of Supergirl and only appeared in 3 episodes, but all 3 of them were in 2019. There were also 2 episodes where he had a cameo in Season 5, but I really don't want to count that for the most part. He's only in 1 scene in both of them, but in Season 4 he appears in 3 episodes, and because of that alone, it's like the best year of Supergirl ever. But there's also just the storyline that came with Lex Luthor that honestly was pretty great. And then also in Season 5, while the Crisis setup could have been so much better, it was at least a little bit good. So all things considered, I think Supergirl in 2019 had its best year ever. Also with the Crisis episode itself, the last episode so far, or the last episode ever for Supergirl in 2019, also was a great episode. So that's why it's higher than Legends of Tomorrow. That's why it's also way higher than Batwoman. And while it is definitely the best year of Supergirl ever, it still is nowhere near as good as The Flash or Arrow. But in this video right now, I'll answer the question of, in my opinion at least, which one of those 2 shows was better this year. So I recorded the Flash part of this video separately. I forgot to mention the episodes we got from 2019 from The Flash. It was Season 5, Episode 10 to Season 6, Episode 9. So now let's talk about The Flash. Just make believe I just mentioned that, and there was no pause right here. In 2019, The Flash had some pretty high highs, but it also had some relatively low lows. The first couple episodes, or really in the first half or so of 2019 for The Flash, wasn't great. I liked Season 5 on my first watch, but the second time I watched it, it was a lot less enjoyable. I think that the storyline with Sherlock and Reverse Flash was good, but it definitely was not as good as it needed to be to keep the episodes as good as possible. I think that the main problems were the focus on XS, who on my second watch I just found very tedious and repetitive. Also the cicadas, terrible villains, and Team Flash itself, this is probably my biggest problem with the season. Team Flash is so ugly looking. The Flash's costume is terrible. Vibe and Killer Frost are just black costumes, and then this Elongated Man and XS, who have very unsaturated colors in their costumes. You take them all together and it's the most ugly the Team Flash has ever looked, and that's such a big problem with that season, especially when you compare it to Season 6. Similar to Arrow Season 5, but certainly to a less extreme, I think The Flash Season 6 kind of felt like a rejuvenation of the show, as the season gave, first of all, The Flash and Frost new costumes, and also it kind of looks like they saturated the colors a little bit. The show looks so much better than it did in Season 5, with the costumes, with the colors, and I absolutely love that part of it. The storyline of the season, or the main 2 storylines, the interwoven storylines of Bloodwork and the Crisis setup, made for what is quite possibly the best, or on par with the best seasons of The Flash ever, as The Flash Season 6A with the Crisis setup and the Bloodwork storyline, which is its own contained season, is absolutely amazing in my opinion. The Crisis setup was interesting on itself because of what it was setting up, but also it allowed for the show to explore a lot more emotional moments with Barry knowing that he's going to die in a couple of weeks. It really pulled that off very well, and it also pulled off that connecting to the Bloodwork storyline where Ramsey Rosso is also going to die and he is not willing to accept it, while Barry is, and this leads him down a path of insanity and a path to becoming Bloodwork, a villain who is probably at this point, and it seems like a lot of people agree, the 3rd best villain storyline on the show ever, only behind Zoom and Reverse Flash, which is really, I think, it's a very big accomplishment for this season. They gave us such a great villain, and I think that is a big part of why The Flash was generally pretty great this year in 2019. It had its ups and downs, like I said earlier, but I think it's mainly because of The Flash Season 6, and the first 9 episodes of the season, one of which was the Crisis episode, and right before that was this awesome mid-season finale two-parter. I absolutely love Season 6, and I absolutely love The Flash this year, especially in the last 9 episodes. With that in mind, The Flash is only second place because it wasn't nearly as good. It was only, I think, a little bit worse than... In 2019, we got Arrow Season 7, Episode 10 to Season 8, Episode 7. Now, if it was the first half or the first part of Season 7, the 2018 part, if that was in 2019 would have been by far the best year ever for Arrow, because the first half, the 2018 part of Season 7 was awesome, while the second half, the 2019 part, wasn't really. The 2019 part had its problems. The Amico as the villain was absolutely terrible, and the Night Circle were incredibly disappointing. The flash forwards were made completely obsolete and incredibly just bad, just not very good whatsoever, and the use of the season-long storyline was not handled well. The reason that it doesn't make it number 2, the reason that Arrow is still better than The Flash this year, is because of Season 8, I'll get to that a little bit, but also Season 7, while not being amazing, I still think was probably better than The Flash Season 5, as at least it had a lot of great, enjoyable, episodic episodes, like episodes that were self-contained, that did make the season actually fairly enjoyable and at least a little bit decent. But obviously it is Season 8, which is at this point probably the best season of Arrow ever. I looked up the averages of all the episodes on IMDb, and it does have so far at this point the highest average of any season of Arrow. And while Season 5 is certainly my favorite, or at least it was before Season 8, I think Season 8 is just, it's too perfect. It doesn't have a single bad episode, and every episode is very important, very well done, and basically every episode I think deserves a 9 out of 10 or higher. It also has the benefit of only being 7 episodes long. It will be 10 episodes in the end. One of those episodes is a crossover, one of them is a backdoor pilot, and one of them is the series finale. So it's basically 7 episodes plus a couple extras, so it has the benefit of being very self-contained in that amount of episodes. But even if you know, it was short, it doesn't necessarily mean it's good. However, it certainly is. It's very good. Much like The Flash Season 6, but also definitely to a bigger extent, or a better extent, the season used the Crisis setup in the absolutely perfect way for the general hype, which it was more focused here than it was in The Flash, with even Oliver going to Earth 2, the crazy ending of Earth 2 being destroyed, which was a crazy highlight for the season, but also obviously the emotional element to Oliver's upcoming death, and also the emotional element to the destruction of Earth 2 with Black Canary. They used those things so perfectly for the emotional effect of the season. And speaking of Black Canary, Season 8 not only gave us by far the best version of Black Canary ever, but also more Green Arrow Black Canary team-ups than we ever got before. All they gotta do is add a romantic relationship there, a romantic element there, and that's exactly what the comics are. This is exactly what I wanted to see out of Arrow from the very beginning. That's really the only thing that makes this season, or that element of the season, not like absolutely perfect, but it is just so enjoyable seeing these two characters, Green Arrow and Black Canary, finally team up with nobody else around, just those two by themselves. It's so enjoyable. And obviously there are the flash forwards, but even those things, they're given purpose, and while Mia had her annoying moments, the future characters did come into their own in the end and had some great scenes, great storylines, and even some emotional moments. The Crisis setup, as well as the coming of Oliver's death, are things that they did better than The Flash, and obviously when I say Oliver's death, I mean, for The Flash it will be Barry's death, but one thing The Flash I think did better this season was the villain Bloodwork, as Arrow Season 8 didn't really have a villain. Instead, there was the Monitor, who was the main conflict of the season with Oliver, which honestly, that, along with the rest of the substance of the season, was more than enough of a substitute for a main villain for the season, making it so that Arrow Season 8 is still probably the best season of Arrow ever, or at least it's certainly up there with the greats, Arrow Season 1, 2, and 5. Now, we could say Arrow Seasons 1, 2, 5, and 8. With that in mind, I think Arrow Season 8 is a very, very good season, and it makes it so that Arrow was the best Arrowverse show in 2019, as 2019 is basically its last year in the Arrowverse, as in 2020, it's only going to have 3 episodes, 2 of which are now really going to be Arrow episodes. It's really just the series finale, so it's fitting that basically its last year, it is the best in the Arrowverse. So anyway, that is my list for the ranking of all 5 main Arrowverse shows in 2019. Now let me know your list in the comments down below, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.